The public imagination is fixated on kinetic threats, hypersonic missiles, carrier strike groups. This is a calculated misdirection. The cost of a peer-to-peer conflict is prohibitive for all actors. The real war is silent. The primary vector is not a missile. It is the severance of data. The global financial system and military command and control run on a network of undersea cables. RUSI analysts confirm these are the primary targets in a pre-conflict scenario. The blueprint is already operational. Chinese cyber attacks on Taiwan's critical infrastructure are up 113% daily, a live fire rehearsal for a global protocol. This protocol is designed to create the blind Leviathan, a nation-state with unparalleled military power suddenly rendered deaf and dumb. A carrier group without satellite data is a floating liability. A Federal Reserve facing a solvency crisis, as warned by Powell, cannot prevent a systemic liquidity freeze if transaction data is corrupted. While the system is primed for this attack, cognitive warfare acts as the key accelerant. Adversaries weaponize pre-existing domestic liabilities. As internal factions litigate past events and terminal political division consumes the news cycle, the real systemic threat to national solvency is ignored. This is not incompetence, it is a feature of the attack surface. The objective is not to defeat America in battle. It is to force a zero-sum choice upon its leadership. With the nation blind and the economy in freefall, the executive branch must either preside over a systemic collapse or initiate a kinetic, launch-on warning response from a position of absolute information darkness. This is the endpoint of asymmetric escalation. The central equation of modern conflict is no longer about parity, it is about leverage. A detailed cost-benefit analysis by RUSI, the Royal United Services Institute, establishes the new calculus of lethality. A legacy kinetic asset, such as a main battle tank, represents a capital expenditure of approximately $5 million. In contrast, an FPV, first-person view, drone, capable of neutralizing that same asset, costs $500. The math is irrefutable. That is a 10,000 to 1 cost asymmetry. This economic inversion signals what strategists term the democratization of violence. The barrier to entry for inflicting strategic-level damage has been effectively erased. It is no longer the exclusive domain of nation-states with trillion-dollar defense budgets. This principle extends beyond kinetic hardware. Reports confirm Chinese cyber attacks on Taiwanese critical infrastructure are now escalating at a rate of 113% daily, a low-cost vector designed to achieve systemic paralysis without firing a shot. Adversaries weaponize this economic asymmetry as an accelerant. They do not need to build a rival fleet. They only need to make it prohibitively expensive for the U.S. to defend its own assets. Low-cost cognitive warfare operations, as outlined in NATO's own threat assessments, amplify pre-existing domestic liabilities, namely terminal political division and a pending national solvency crisis. The objective is to create a cascading failure where the kinetic cost of defense bankrupts the system from within. This protocol forces a zero-sum choice. As the cost-per-kill ratio inverts and domestic liabilities are strategically inflamed, U.S. leadership is pushed toward an untenable position. The choice becomes, accept a systemic collapse driven by economic exhaustion, or initiate a kinetic escalation from a position of profound internal weakness. This is not a war of attrition. It is a war on solvency. It is an engineered checkmate. The theater of operations is not a naval strait or a contested border. It is a distributed network of proxy laboratories. Geopolitical friction points, such as those flagged by travel advisories to nations like South Africa or Canada, are not the core threat. They are staging grounds, live fire environments for testing systemic stress protocols before deployment against the primary target. Consider Taiwan the digital laboratory. According to its National Security Bureau, Chinese cyber attacks on critical infrastructure have surged by 113% daily since 2023. This is not random aggression. It is a systematic rehearsal. Each attack is a data point, refining the blueprint for disabling power, water, and financial settlement systems with minimal kinetic cost. Simultaneously, the cognitive vector is being calibrated. NATO's own chief scientist confirms this domain of warfare is now operational. We observe its application in the United States' domestic political architecture. Statements amplifying proven divisions, such as those between political figures and their bases, function as a low-cost accelerant. The objective is not to win an argument. It is to make the system ungovernable by weaponizing pre-existing liabilities. These proxy laboratories, digital and societal, are used to perfect the methods of asymmetric escalation. They are stress testing the exact pressure points required to fracture an opponent from within. By mastering the exploitation of liabilities like the pending housing and solvency crisis cited by Powell, an adversary manufactures a zero-sum choice for U.S. leadership: initiate a kinetic response from a state of total internal disarray, or accept a controlled, systemic collapse without a single shot fired. The final escalation will not be triggered by an incoming missile, but by an absence of data. The systemic vulnerability is the protocol itself. Launch on warning. According to CSIS analysis, this doctrine mandates a retaliatory strike upon detection of an enemy launch before the warheads arrive. The objective is to prevent a decapitation strike that would neutralize America's kinetic response capability. However, this protocol was designed for a physical world. Adversaries now use asymmetric vectors to exploit it. This is not theoretical. According to Taiwan's National Security Bureau, Chinese cyber attacks targeting critical infrastructure have increased by 113% daily since 2023. These are not random attacks, they are rehearsals. This creates the fog of digital war. A targeted cyber attack blinds the early warning system. The radar screens go dark. Satellite feeds transmit no signal. The commander is now deprived of information, the most critical asset in a solvency crisis. The engineered dilemma is mathematical. Does the commander assume a system error and wait, risking the complete annihilation of U.S. forces if a strike is, in fact, inbound? Or does he follow protocol, assume the silence means the sensors were the first target, and launch a full-scale response out of fear? This is the zero-sum choice. This military crisis is designed to detonate within a field of domestic liabilities. NATO itself has warned of advanced cognitive warfare, a vector used to amplify pre-existing political division. With the nation already fractured by information warfare and facing economic insolvency, an adversary can force U.S. leadership to choose between initiating a kinetic escalation from a position of profound internal weakness or accepting systemic collapse. The trap is the choice itself. The calibration shot will not be a missile, it will be a keystroke. Within the next 12 months, anticipate a targeted, multi-hour disruption of a U.S.-based financial clearinghouse. The event will be engineered for plausible deniability, blamed on a solar flare, a fat finger trade, or a system upgrade failure. This is a low-cost intelligence gathering operation. CSIS analysis confirms adversaries favor asymmetric escalation protocols. With Chinese cyber attacks on the critical infrastructure already up 113% daily since 2023, the operational rehearsal phase is complete. The objective is not to destroy, but to measure. The primary metric is the chaos to paralysis timeline. Adversaries will monitor the velocity at which partisan factions weaponize the event, leveraging terminal political division. The goal is to quantify how long it takes for domestic infighting to render a coordinated federal response impossible. This data is the true asset. It will be fed into a matrix that calculates the precise economic pressure, compounded by the pre-existing housing and solvency crisis, needed to force a zero-sum choice upon U.S. leadership: systemic failure or kinetic escalation from a state of complete internal disarray. This is not a forecast, it is a schedule.